Learn how to listen for button clicks using our different listener method. In this lesson, we will make our add task button respond whenever the user clicks it. We won't add tasks to the list yet. We will simply detect the click. And that is because web pages become interactive when they respond to events. And what exactly is an event? An event is simply something that happens on a web page. Example include clicking a button. This is an example of an event. Typing on the keyboard is an example of an event. Moving the mouse is an example of an event, and as well as loading a web page. So these are some of the examples of an event in JavaScript. And so in this lesson, we want to listen for the click events on our add task button. So looking at the code that we already have, this is our HTML in this div container, and our CSS is inside our style.css file, which is what we have here. And we also have our script code inside the script part of our code. So let's go ahead and listen for a click event on the button. So in order to achieve that, we are going to work in our script section in this lesson. And if you look closely at what we already have, we have been able to add code that can be used to target the ID of each of the elements that we have in our HTML. So we have a variable that is targeting the ID of our inputs. And then we have another one that is targeting the ID of our button, and the last one for the task list itself. So let me just remove these comments because I want them to be grouped together. And now good. So we can move on. So now that we want to just listen for the button clicks, how are we going to go about it? Don't forget that in this code that you can see on the screen, we were able to target the ID of our HTML elements using the document object element by ID method that JavaScript provides as a built-in function. So the same thing is what we are going to do for button clicks. We are going to make use of another a JavaScript inbuilt function called add event listener method. So this add event listener method is what we are going to attach to our element in order to make it listen for clicks whenever it is being clicked. So let's move on and let's go ahead and select our button. So in this example, how do we select our button? Now, if you look closely at what we already have here, we are already targeting the ID of that button by storing it in a variable called add button. So we are going to make use of this variable now, add button, and we are going to attach the add event listener to it. Add event listener. And because this is a method, this also is waiting for two things. Number one is the event that needs to be happening. Whether we want to hover, what I mean by hover is if you are just moving your mouse like this, or you want to click by clicking on it. So in our case, our event is click. We want a click event. So you will add it here. And once you have done that, then you can add a second argument. For this use case, let's just call it button clicked. Right now, it is not going to do anything because we have actually not added that function. If I go ahead and click on this, nothing is going to happen. So now let's make our function. So this is the event and this is the function. That means that add event listener usually takes two arguments, the event and what you want to happen after that event has fired. So in our case, we want an action to indicate that the button was actually clicked. So this is the function part of what the add event listener method expects. And let's go ahead and make the function now. So let's make our function and call it button clicked. So we just want this to show us that this button was actually clicked. In order to do that, since it is not going to be adding the list yet, let's just use an alert method to show us that this button is actually clicked. Now, if I go ahead and click on this button now, let's check. You can see button clicked, which means that what we just did to the button is actually working. Now that we have this, I now want us to do something else, and that is the fact, and what I want us to do is this code that we have on the screen, this script tag, I want us to wrap it in another method so that when our web page load, then it will allow our elements to load before it will start targeting them. But before that, this example that we just, what we just did in this example is that when the user clicks this add task button, JavaScript will display an alert message. And this alert message is coming from what we added in our function. Although this to-do list doesn't add task yet, but what we have done is we have successfully made the button interactive. Now you can see the difference between when this button was actually not doing anything and now that we have attached a click event to it. So this is how you can add an event to a button in JavaScript. Now that we have all of this in place, let's now quickly wrap all of this JavaScript code in a method called window.unload. And let's add a function. And let's move all of our code. So I've moved the code inside it, so I don't need this anymore. So this is still going to work. If you go and click on add tags, you can see button clicked. So what has changed from what we had previously? So it's just this line and the closing brace for this function that has changed. Now, if you look at what we just did now, you might be wondering and asking that what exactly is the usefulness of what we just did? Well, window.unload equals to this function and now wraps our code is basically doing this task of making sure that all the HTML elements are loaded before JavaScript try to find them. Without this, JavaScript may try to find elements that don't exist yet. And in situations like that, it will always lead to an unexpected result from your application or from whatever scenario that you might be engaged in at a particular point in time. So this window.unload function is basically trying to ensure that all HTML elements are loaded before JavaScript will try to find them. That basically means that all this must have been loaded into the DOM before JavaScript will now try to be finding them one after the other and manipulate them. So in this lesson, we have been able to see how we can make web pages interactive by responding to events. And we have used add event listener method, which is what we have here, to listen for the click event on our add task button. When this button is clicked, JavaScript will run our function, which display an alert message. Although we are not adding task yet, but at least we have taken the first step to make sure that our to-do app is becoming interactive.